if you haven't been watching Breaking Bad, you shouldn't even listen to this podcast. Just stop right now. Go to Walmart or get on Netflix or a torrent site or whatever it is you young kids do, and just go watch Breaking Bad because it's so freaking awesome. This is Coast to Coast Pinball. It's episode 27, and it will not be as good as the last few episodes of Breaking Bad has been. I promise. Let's go. It is so good of you all to join us here. This is Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast. It's a commentary. I'm a man out of quarters. What's going on back in San Diego? That was a long trip I was on. I tried to explain this a little bit in the last episode. Sometimes when I travel, I have lots of free time. I go see a couple accounts for work. It's morning and early afternoon. And then my evenings are totally free. And sometimes I have to travel in the evenings to get to the next town or where I'm going. But oftentimes I have the evening to do as I want. So I go play pinball. I go seek out new places to play pinball. I record episodes of this show. This trip was not one of those trips. About 5 weeks of the year, I do these presentations 4 or 5 nights a week. And we did 5 of them last week, Monday through Friday. And they run, 7 to 9 o'clock p.m. And then there's teardown, and then there's usually a meal. Sometimes there's a drive. I was oftentimes getting to my hotel at 12:31 in the morning. There was zero time for pinball, and it was really depressing because I was so close to a lot of cool collections of machines. What a bummer. The only machine I laid hands on this whole trip was that Iron Man that I discussed last episode in Littleton, New Hampshire. And that was, Monday. That was a week ago. It's been a whole week. I apologize. I don't like going that long between episodes. I got email from you. The mailbag had at least a half a dozen emails going, what's up? Where are you at? Are you okay? Had a friend in Australia email me this evening. Like, is everything all right? Like, he's looking out for me. It's very nice of you. So everything is fine. The weekend actually ended up with me traveling with Teresa to Oklahoma. It was her mother's 70th birthday, and we threw her a surprise party. And I did plan on playing some pinball, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But without further ado, because I know that everybody's been waiting for this and this alone, it's time for everyone's favorite segment, Getting in Bed with Teresa.
Getting in Bed with Teresa.
Ticking.
Hey, guess what?
Oh, no.
It's our segment.
Oh, my goodness.
It's Getting in Bed with Teresa. It was a hit. People loved it.
Okay, I need the pinball world out there to know that he is coming in to say goodnight to me and just give me a kiss and turn the light out for me. And then he busts out the TikTok metronome recording dealy bopper.
The world wants to hear your opinions on the state of the pinball nation.
Well, that makes me feel good.
They want to run contests to get to do this segment with you, which I'm completely opposed to. Unless there's a very high entry fee. No. I'm kidding.
I was about to say.
Kidding.
No one's getting in bed with Terry except for you.
That's right. So what's going on? You played any pinball lately?
Gosh, I haven't. I just threw a big surprise birthday
Have you played
party.
Metallica yet?
No, I've never even seen Metallica. I mean,
it's too bad there's not one like 8 miles from here.
Where is it?
High Dive.
Oh, we've been there before.
Yeah, why don't you go and play Metallica?
Hold on, what did they get rid of?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I would go, of course, to High Dive and play pinball with you.
Let's go. It's 9 o'clock. They're open till like 2 in the morning. It's early.
I just got back from a trip.
Yeah, I did too.
I know, but
How much pinball did I get to play on my portion of the trip with you?
With me, none, because you were rescuing my phone.
I'll tell that story later.
Oh, sorry.
That's
it's
not
awesome,
for right now.
you guys. He was like detective, FBI phone agent. It was awesome.
But clearly that's not pinball related either.
Sorry. You know what? You were going to go play pinball.
I was going to. I think they had a Simpsons pinball party.
They did at the movie theater.
Yeah, and I was going to get to play it.
You played it when you were back east?
I've done a show since then.
Oh, well.
I'm getting people in Australia emailing me, are you okay? Is everything all right?
Oh, he's been busy being a family member and participating
Yeah, we got to
in
fix that. That's
surprise
nonsense.
parties.
Nonsense.
But you're gonna... Or am I not supposed to mention that?
Yeah. Quit giving away my show.
play.
I have a show to do. You can't do this.
Okay, well, just know that he has something very fun that he's going to do, very, very pinball related later in the week. There.
Exactly.
I didn't say anything. Well, what do you want to know my opinion on? You said...
Pinball. Go. Talk. Let's go.
Oh, that's not okay. It's too
Have you
late.
read the pinball magazines I got here? No. Just say no. Don't lie.
You know what?
Okay, what?
Today you showed me that awesome machine that someone had replaced all the sides with lucite or something clear.
Ah, yes. That's at the Pinball Museum.
That was beautiful.
The Pacific Pinball Museum.
Yeah. And I thought that
in
was
Alameda.
one of the prettiest things I'd ever seen.
Can I get one?
Yeah. I would love to have something like that in the living
All
room.
right, we need to sell the animals.
Stop.
And possibly your car.
You suggested that on a different podcast.
Oh, you heard
Those
that?
are our babies. Those are our children.
I thought you weren't listening to the shows anymore. I thought you'd given up.
I listen in the car on the way to work.
Oh, okay.
Because I love you.
Not because you like pinball?
Mostly because I love you. But I also like pinball.
Okay.
But
Well,
if it
I actually have to go
wasn't
do the real
you, I
show
wouldn't
now.
listen to- I thought
Because
you
this
were gonna
clearly has
actually
nothing to
ask
do
me
with
a
pinball.
question.
I don't know. You don't care.
I care about you and
Then
your
let's go play
podcast.
No, but that's not pinball related.
Well, you're supposed to provide a question and I can give you my opinion.
We'll work on that for next episode.
Boo.
Ooh.
Yes, this is your fault. This is not my fault.
Okay. Who's your favorite character on Monster Bash? Go.
I don't really like that game.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, I know. The only time I
Okay,
play it is that
your
one
time on
bowling
this
alley.
podcast is over. It's nice to have spoken with you tonight, Teresa.
No, I think it was too hard because I hadn't
It was
played.
too hard.
No, for me, I'm not very good at pinball.
Just say The Bride of Frankenstein and be done.
Is Dracula on it?
Yes.
Dracula.
Wrong answer, it's Frankenstein.
But is Dracula in
monster.
the game?
Yes, he comes out of the coffin and then you hit him.
No, I remember that. No, I like that. That
You
is.
just said you didn't like it. I had to cut that off because we just kept talking about that on and on and on, and it got worse and worse. It made no sense. But there you have the great Teresa. Totally ambushed. She was not ready for that at all. She was kind of a zombie. So that was, pretty off topic, but sort of fun. Anyway, so here's what happened while we were in Oklahoma. I'm going to throw this out here. Totally off topic. If you're a pinball diehard and don't want to hear about anything else, sorry. We were throwing this surprise party for her mother, and it was happening at 3 p.m. on Sunday. Well, all Saturday night and Sunday morning, Teresa couldn't find her cell phone. And we were looking, couldn't find it. And then suddenly it occurred to me on Sunday morning around 11, almost noon, that phone was gone. We had checked out of the hotel we were staying in. It wasn't anywhere to be found. Couldn't find it at her family's house. It just wasn't there. So I remembered that the Find My iPhone app was pretty good, apparently. I'd never used it, but I'd heard good things. So I loaded it up on my iPhone and my iPad and tracked her phone, because you just enter her Apple ID number. Lo and behold, her phone looked to be located in a house 2 neighborhoods over from where we were, at her sister's house. So I put it into lock mode via this app, where it locks the phone and sends out a distress signal and puts a little message, "This phone has been lost. Please call this number." And then the phone started moving. Because if you've never seen this app, it's awesome. It shows you a map, and it geo-tracks the phone. And as long as the phone's still on, it actually shows you how much battery is left on the lost phone, and it shows you where it is. So Teresa's brother-in-law and I jumped in his car and drove towards the phone, which started driving away from us. It was like a hunt for the phone. And we drove all over this tiny little town of Claremore, Oklahoma, tracking this phone. We tracked it to a Sonic drive-in. We tracked it to Walmart. We tracked it to a Lowe's hardware store. And then we got it into a neighborhood where we caught up with it, because it was always updating about a minute behind, and we were always just behind them. It was really hilarious. And we finally got up into this neighborhood, and the phone was, and this thing's accurate. It shows you down to like within, 30 or 40 feet of where your phone is. The phone was in a cul-de-sac. And so we drove down into the cul-de-sac, and this red SUV drove past us going the other way. And Chad and I looked around and said, "Is that it? Do you think that's it?" And I quickly was refreshing on my phone. Actually, I was using my iPad because my phone battery had died. to try and track the phone again. And it was moving right behind us. It had just passed us. So we whipped around, chased this SUV, couldn't find it, drove down a couple streets, and then all of a sudden we saw that it had pulled into another driveway and was now pulling out sort of behind us. So Chad did a U-turn. This is her brother-in-law. And we ended up pulling right in front of this car in like a four-way stop. He pulls his car, blocking their car, and he and I just both hop out of the car like complete fools, if you really think about this. And he starts going, "We're here for the phone." And I just start pointing at the girl that was driving, and it was like a young couple, sort of unkept looking, in a very, very messy, old, beaten-up SUV. And they couldn't have been over 22, 23 years old. And I just point right at her face, and I said, "I want the phone." And I guess we could have been wrong on this, but we were fairly certain they had the phone. And they both just gave us this shocked look. And she said, okay, I'll get it. And they start digging under the seat for the phone. And I was like, and I just shaking my head at her like, unbelievable. And she says, "We were going to call you, but then you locked the phone." And that's a lie. They were not going to call us. And she pulls the phone out, and the whole front face glass panel's completely smashed in. Like you could see the impact points of being hit on something. And I was like, "So you smashed the phone?" She goes, "Well, I found it that way." I'm like, "But I thought you said you were going to call me until I locked it." And I just took the phone and just shook my head at her and left. So we got the phone. It needs new glass and a new display. It still rings and sound still comes out. I guess what happened is when I was sending the test noise where you can tell it to make a sound for 2 straight minutes so you can find it if you just lost it in your house, they were trying to get it to stop making that noise. Maybe they thought it was being tracked, and that's why they drove literally all over town, but really unreal. The moral of this story is I went and found Teresa's phone for her during the only window I had to go play this Simpsons pinball party that was at the local movie theater. I was planning on, doing a show sort of about the Simpsons pinball party, and I didn't get to do that because I was off playing Inspector Gadget or something. So, pretty ridiculous. It was kind of fun in a way, like tracking this phone. So, I mean, I wouldn't recommend losing your iPhone so you can do it. But if you ever do lose your iPhone, Find My iPhone is such a cool app you can use on another iPhone or another computer. So, pretty awesome stuff. Let's jump into the forum.
Forum static.
Well, since we've last spoke, videos have now popped up of real people playing real Star Trek pinball machines by Stern. And I've only seen Pro Edition video so far. I kind of like what I see. It's a fast-playing game. It's got some flow to it. The light shows are great. The color-changing LEDs and the inserts are very cool. I think it's a little empty feeling. I wish maybe the baked potatoes wrapped in foil asteroids were on the Pro as well, but that's okay. I like it. I think it looks good. The sound seemed to be really good. I don't believe it has custom speech, which is what was sort of popping out in some of the replies I read to the videos. The DMD animations were really good. I thought they did some really neat kind of effects, like kind of simulating 3 dimensions and depth on the DMD. I thought that was some of the better DMDs I've seen out of Stern, as far as DMD screenshots that I saw. So it looked really neat. I didn't get a good feel for that ship moving, and I think the ship's supposed to move on the Pro version. So I'm going to dive into that deeper and watch more of those videos. Hopefully we'll see some sort of gameplay video on a limited edition or premium soon, if it's not already there. I will admit, I'm a little behind on catching up with the forum. We were flying all day, so kind of did some last-minute notes tonight. But it looked pretty good. I think it's a good-looking game. Enough about that for now, though. We've talked Star Trek. So I wanted to touch base on, I want to touch base on a topic that was titled, I forget what the title was, but anyway, it was posted by John from Reciprocal Skateboards in New York City. He was calling out that there's a documentary, short film documentary, and I don't know if this was the whole documentary, if it was just the trailer for the documentary. I believe it's like a short style documentary called Replay, and it's on Vimeo, Vimeo, like video but with an M in the middle, and it's a Pinball Fanatics sort of documentary project about the resurgence of pinball, specifically in New York City, and showing the New York City market. And it was pretty cool because I'm in New York City a lot, so I know a lot of the places that were featured in this documentary. I like the documentary. Pinball makes such a great subject for this style of project because the lights, the art, the just the whole package of a pinball machine photographs well, it videos well, it's iconic. There's lots of different ones to look at, and then you put pinball machines side by side or in a certain space or building. You just have real interesting visuals for your eyes to look at in a documentary. I liked this for a couple reasons. I liked the characters that they chose for this, the people that they chose, sort of the real people who are behind the scenes and running the pinball scene that is in New York City. And they're touching mainly on reciprocal, and I saw 2-bits popping up a lot. They kind of cover the fact that Brooklyn is really the up and coming spot where there's a lot of machines. They claim in this video at one point in 1978 there was over 10,000 pinball machines in New York City, and now today there's like less than 100. That's pretty mind-blowing. And that's Manhattan they're talking about. I don't know if that includes Brooklyn or not. And of course, John from Reciprocal is opening up Jack Bar soon in Brooklyn, so taking the place of the old Satellite Lounge. So he's in there. Cool. I've never spoken to John before, so it was neat to see John on video talking. He had a really great quote that he sounded like he was inside my head a little bit when he talked about, we're stressed out, our worlds are busy, but when you play pinball, you don't think about that stuff as much. And I think that's probably what's drawing a lot of us, late 20s, 30s, early 40s folks who are really drawn to pinball. It's just our little escape, and it's so fun and good. So it was neat to see that. Hopefully I'll get to meet John soon at Jack Bar, so hopefully he'll have that open. But it was neat. In the thread, you'll see a lot of people commenting on the music choice and the profanity in the music. I think he's using a Dr. Dre song at the beginning and then Eminem at the end. The music totally doesn't fit. I get what they're going for. It's the city, it's hip hop, it's rap. But there's a ton of swearing. I mean, they're using, words commonly used in rap music, and that's fine. I swear all the time, but I don't really swear on this show much because I know we're trying to grow this hobby and grow the audience, and I don't want to, spout off a bunch of F words so that parents, that maybe want to listen to this podcast in the car or have it on around the house, start feeling they have to censor the show. And I think that's a problem with the replay doc as far as I saw. There was some swearing in the actual documentary, which doesn't bother me quite as much. I think that's really easy to beep. I think that nobody's going to be offended or turned off if you throw beeps over that. I know it's edgy to have the swearing in there, but it's almost cliched at this point. But the swearing in the music at the beginning and at the end just felt so out of place. It didn't add anything, and it certainly did detract, I think. He got a lot of comments on the Vimeo page saying the same thing, and then the Pinside forum post, it was noted over and over again that, hey, this music doesn't fit. So hopefully this isn't his final cut, and I'm sorry I don't have his name sitting in front of me. I should have that, but check it out. Find replay on Vimeo. It's a fun to watch. I think it's about half hour long, 35 minutes long, something like that. They also sort of highly feature the website that runs the big New York Pinball League, which is pinballnyc.com. And I like to go to that site just to look to see where machines are. They seem like a very organized league that focuses sort of on team playing, which is neat because you haven't seen a lot of that around. And the guy who kind of dreamt that concept up is featured in the documentary. So that's always good. And I know there's more documentaries in the works right now. I was listening to Pinball Soul the other day, and they were talking to the guy who has a Kickstarter going right now to do a pinball documentary. I'm so horrible. I believe it was called Lock When Lit. My info's shoddy at best this evening. Please forgive me. So I know that I just think people are drawn to that. Also on the Pinside forum, sort of right now at the same time, there is a post that sort of touches on Special When Lit. And I think the post is Special When Lit watched it last night. And I have been watching Special When Lit sort of piece by piece on flights. I'll pull it up. It's on my laptop. But Teresa and I first watched Special When Lit together a couple years ago, year and a half ago. And we had already watched the other, was it Tilt, Battle to Save Pinball 2000, Battle to Save Pinball. And then we watched Special Unlit, and she didn't care for Special Unlit as much, if I remember correctly. I liked it because it sort of showed... It showed the characters, obviously, and if you read this forum post, there's a lot specifically about one character, Sam, who is an older gentleman who has kind of dedicated his life to logging and tracking pinball machines and seeing where they've gone, specifically some of the older games. I liked the quirkiness of it, and Steve from Rock Fantasy, where I go play when I'm in the Middletown area, is in the documentary also. Some people don't like Special Unlit because they feel that it makes pinball hobbyists and collectors look like weirdos or outcasts. And, you know, I guess that's sort of one viewpoint on it. That seems to me sort of like a real negative, kind of snobby look at it in a way. You know, it's a niche hobby, and people who get really into it to the extreme in any hobby tend to be a little eccentric, and I think that's okay. But people kind of ripped on that in the thread a little bit. It was kind of depressing to see. I don't know. There's no reason for that, really. And then I saw a bunch of deleted posts in there, so I think people sort of came around and realized what they were doing. But I thought it was interesting that there were a lot of people in that thread, including the original poster, who were just discovering that documentary. And I think that one and Tilt sort of have aged themselves a little bit because, you know, there's quotes from Steve Ritchie, there's quotes from other people who, it's really like doomsday. Like, pinball's dying in those documentaries, partly. That's kind of the vibe you get. It's not like happy, shiny. It's sort of like... And then they end up sort of with, and now there's just one person making pinball machines, and it's Gary Stern. He's in Chicago. That's sort of the end. And you fast forward, you know, a couple years, I know... Special Unlit was recorded mostly in the mid-2000 aughts, or whatever you want to call the first decade. So you fast forward to 2013, and hey man, we're in a resurgence of some sort, right? I mean, prices are up, production seems to be up, more people are building games, people are downloading my silly podcast, so somebody's interested somewhere. Seems to be a resurgence. So it's interesting. That's why I really did enjoy watching the replay documentary, because it had the much more the positive, the upside, the swing, that hey, look at all these hipsters and lawyers and just anybody playing pinball. So sort of a lot of documentary talk right now. Before I jump out of forum static, there is one other post I wanted to touch on that I've actually been watching for a couple weeks. It was posted about 2 weeks ago, and it's sort of an advertisement for a product that somebody's making, but it just blew me away how good it looked. And it's the Shadow, new original artwork, translite, and speaker panel and cards. And the guy that put this up, he designed a new translite for the Shadow. And the Shadow, I think, is sort of historically thought of as one of the best games with the worst translates, because it has Alec Baldwin, right there in front and center, with the cool Shadow guy off in the background above him. Well, the new alternate, and there are other alternate translates available, but this is the best one I've ever seen, and it has the old school comic book graphic novel style Shadow front and center, matching the side cabinet artwork really well. And it's awesome. It makes me want a Shadow. I like that game to begin with. I think that game has great gadgets. I think it has a lot of difficulty. It has some things that we've never seen on games before, or at least implemented the way that they were implemented. So seeing that translate really was like, I got this Judge Dredd sitting there. Who wants to trade me a Shadow for Judge Dredd? I'll throw in some money. Let's make that happen or something. That's how I felt when I was watching that. Reading the forum. It seems like he had a really good list of people into that too. So kudos to you, sir, for your design. I know when I owned a Street Fighter pinball machine for a brief while, I had an alternate translate for that, because that translate's also pretty awful. So I think that's a cool trend, and I like that there's some really talented people who are out there designing artwork. So that's neat. really the highlight of what I've been doing pinball-wise has been listening to podcasts. Seems like all of a sudden there was a bunch of podcasts in my podcast player because I wasn't able to catch up. I was traveling with someone else this week. I was actually traveling with a Grammy winner guitar player who's a product specialist for my company, and I didn't want to subject him to, such a niche thing. Here, we're going to listen to a podcast about pinball. I didn't think he'd enjoy that too much. He was fascinated when I told him that I had my own podcast. He wanted to know all about it. Kind of blew his mind that I maybe he thought it was hilarious I spent so much time on it, but he really thought that was crazy that I recorded these podcasts and people actually listen to them. And I showed him like my website numbers because he runs a couple websites, and he was sort of blown away how much traffic I was getting for such a niche market. So it was kind of weird, kind of awkward. And then Teresa's family was asking me about it because she's told them about it. I'm talking about this like, I don't know. I don't want to say I feel insecure about it because I really like it. I love what we're doing here, but it's sort of weird trying to justify the amount of time and energy I put into this. So I don't know what that means. But I did get a chance to listen to the new Pinball Podcast episode, which they had Joe Zenkus sitting in, who's been a frequent emailer of this show. And that was cool. Nice new dynamic. They sort of made me want to buy a Whirlwind. Their featured game on this episode is Whirlwind, which is one of their hot topics that they do. They pick a featured game every episode. So that was neat. But always a good listen. It was a long show. I like that long form. I know we don't do long form here on this show. Just I'm afraid if I did long form, I wouldn't do it enough, and I would get lazy. So it fits really good for the guys who are doing like a monthly show to go long. I like that a lot. So keep up the good work. That's fun to listen to. Listen to some more Pinball Soul, like what Josh Blood does there. That's been good. And then we're getting. I feel like we're long in the tooth. We need a Game Room Junkies episode soon, right? That should be coming around any time now. And something else that I did when I got home tonight is I made it up in my mind on a plane today. I needed to join the San Diego Pinball Club. I have had a couple different people, either from the club or just people who know of the club, email me and say, hey, why don't you join this? You should come to tournaments. That's sort of what Teresa was alluding to earlier in her segment. Something I'm going to do really fun and exciting. I joined the club. They have a tournament this Thursday night at Nickel City Arcade, which is sort of North County, San Diego. And I think it's actually tied in with a benefit. One of their members, I believe, had a really horrific accident. And I don't want to give the details here because, A, it's not totally my business, and B, I don't know them particularly. But check out, if you're interested at all in just looking at what's going on in San Diego, find the San Diego Pinball Club and read about their tournament, because I think this tournament's going to be a fundraiser for someone close to those people who had, like somebody died and left family behind. It was pretty rough there. So I thought it'd be a great time for me to jump in both feet. I'm going to go play in the tournament and get my butt handed to me Thursday night. So we'll probably do a show Thursday night after that, if nothing else. Yeah, and it's IFPA. It's International Flipper Pinball Association, back there, so I can get some points on that profile. So that's pretty exciting. We have an all-new segment here that I dreamt up today and may blow up in my face. What we're going to do is we're going to go to random.org, and we're going to put our random number generator quantities in between 1 and 272, because that's how many games Pinside currently ranks on their rankings, the Pinside Top 100. It actually goes up to 272. And I'm just going to randomly generate a number, and then I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to look up the game what it is, and I'm going to talk about the game for a little bit, give you any thoughts I have on it. Hopefully it's a game I've played before. Hopefully it's a game I even know, because there are games in there that I don't even really know. But I thought this would be fun. It may make me look like a fool here more so than at other times, but that's all right. We're going to try it. So 1 through 272, I'm going to just keep pounding this generate button, look away, and then stop and look down. It is number 162. So let's go to the top 100 and go to the second page where 1 through 200 will be. And game number 162 is Wait for it. Wait. Oh, Street Fighter 2. That's almost not fair, because Street Fighter 2 is actually the first pinball machine I ever owned. The pinball gods are intervening here. So when I bought Street Fighter 2, I had just gotten back into the hobby. I had really just always loved pinball. When I was a kid, I loved it. Would seek out pinball machines as a child. Like, I would go to Peter Piper's Pizza in Arizona when my mom was shopping in the grocery store. I would walk all the way down the strip mall and go in there just to play Terminator 2 or Doctor Who or whatever games they had out at the time. And but hadn't played much in a long time. Occasionally I'd see one somewhere and play. And I talked about buying a pinball machine a few years ago when I lived in Maryland. I actually went and looked at a haunted house that it was so heavy and big and in bad shape, it just scared me to death, so I decided not to buy it. So I've always had the bug, but I didn't really jump full-fledged until I was in San Diego. And I went to responded to a Craigslist ad on Street Fighter, and they had the game listed for $1,000. And this is, and you probably all can relate to this. When you decide that you're going to buy a pinball machine, all you care about is getting a pinball machine in your house. That's all that it consumes you. At least it consumed me. And you think about it nonstop, and you start rationalizing. You start saying, well, Super Mario Brothers isn't that bad of a game. I could do with that if it's my first game. And you start saying things that you probably know are not true. You start thinking, I could fix some minor problems, or at least I did. Maybe I do like EM games. I'm just kidding. So with me, it was $1,000 for Street Fighter. That's not that bad of a deal. It looks like it's in pretty good shape via this one blurry, grayed out photograph. So I went to the guy's place after work, and he actually lived not far from my work. And I went and looked, and the game was in real good shape. I have to admit, the game was in really good shape. Instantly, I realized one of the ramps was not working. But I thought in my head, how hard can it be, right? How hard can it be to fix a ramp? I am in sales, so I looked at him real sternly at $1,000, and he was asking $1,000, and I said, well, I'm probably not willing to spend $1,000. And the guy just looks at me and says, you and I both know I can't sell you this game for $1,000. And in my head, I'm like, then why are you asking $1,000? He goes, so what's the best you could do? And I said, well, I don't know, man. I said that, you got the ramp issue. I said, you got weird bolts in your legs. I don't know. I'm not real comfortable with maybe even buying the game. And I was sort of a little scared at the time, so I thought maybe I wouldn't buy the game. And when he said he knew there was no way he'd sell for $1,000, it kind of threw me. In my head, I wanted to go home and read more about it and see what I should spend on this game. He goes, well, you seem like a good guy. I'll take $600 for it. And I was just like, okay, cool. And when he offered that, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I bought it right there on the spot for $600. And I liked the game. I think Street Fighter is actually slightly underrated, because it does have some difficult shots. There's strategy involved. Super linear rule set. You got to play the game sort of in the order that it presents itself. I did fix the ramp. I mean, what a win for me when I got the game apart and started looking at the coil and Googling, how to replace coils and how to order the right coil and figure it all out. Man, when I got that going and it was working perfectly, I thought I was so proud of myself. The music drove me nuts after a while, but I tell you, when friends came over, and Teresa for that matter, they all loved that game. When I sold that game, people were bummed. I had friends who were like, where'd Street Fighter go? And I'm like, dude, Twilight Zone. And they're like, yeah, but where's Street Fighter? And then they're not my friend anymore. So that's all I'll say about Street Fighter. I think on one of the very first few episodes, I talked all about this game. If I didn't, maybe I will someday, but that's what I'm going to give you on my random.org game of the episode or something. I don't know. Maybe by the time I finish recording that, I'll put something in post-production that names this silly segment. Oh, yes, the email mailbox. Here we go. All right. If you ever want to get a hold of me, the best way is to email me directly at Coast2Coast. There's the number 2 in there. So Coast2Coast Pinball at gmail.com. That's the best way. The website's not bad, www.coast2coastpinball.com, but the email is the best. All right, I'm going to start at the back. I have deleted a handful of these that were just kind of asking where I was and when the next episode would be out, and if they could be a part of the Getting in Bed with Teresa program, which they cannot. So this is a great email from a new friend of the show, Todd, from Gaithersburg, Maryland. I used to live in Maryland. I lived in Perryville, Maryland. Not super close to Gaithersburg, but not too far either. He said I'm going to read the first paragraph because I like it. I've downloaded and have been listening to your show in order. He's on episode 11 now, so he's way back in the past. He'll hear this in December? Merry Christmas, Todd. Merry Christmas. While I do some painting in our home. I typically run through a bazillion This American Life episodes. That's another podcast, by the way, that I actually really love when I do projects like this, but had come across a mention of your show on Pinside, of course, and have really been enjoying it. Great job. Keep up the commentary. Really enjoy it. Thank you. I appreciate it. He tells me about, he talks about my mention of Lanes and Games up in Massachusetts, and that he would have to check that out, and that he's been up to Pinball Wizard in Pelham. I'm jonesing to go to Pinball Wizard in Pelham. I stayed in a hotel this week at some point, 20 minutes away, and couldn't get out to go. I had mentioned Super Chex Bubble Hockey, and he is running a Super Chex Bubble Hockey League, which is awesome. I wish I could be a part of that. Somebody in San Diego needs to do that. I wouldn't play in a video game league, but I would play in a Super Chex Bubble Hockey League. That would be awesome. Then he gives me a couple of great ideas, and I'll throw these out here because they're great coast-to-coast mentions. If I ever find myself in Baltimore, he says 2 places to check out. One is Crabtown, USA. I know where that is. Lots of pins and vids, generally poor shape. Keep up your pins, people. And then he says another good one is Timeline Arcade in Hanover, Pennsylvania. I've not been there. Games are in great shape, pay by the hour. Oh, I've read about this place, though. I do remember Hanover, pay by the hour. So I believe they're opening a new location in October with 17 pinballs. So, very cool. Then I think he invited me to this place to play some pinball machines. So, actually, there's a good chance I'll be in Maryland soon, Todd. So, you never know when we might drop in and do some coast to coast from your place. Thank you very much for the email, Todd, and I hope your holidays are going well. Okay, so I had a blog comment that popped up in my email, and Steve actually pointed out that so I got this email from 4 or 5 different people that the characters on the Wheel of Fortune pinball machine, at least 2 of the 3 are the programmers, and one of which who was let go from Stern and went to work for Jersey Jack. I actually did know that. Kind of forgot to mention all this when I reviewed Wheel of Fortune on Welcome to the D-List last episode. They were pointing out Keith Johnson was one of the head programmers, and he was let go from Stern, and then that's why the programming never got finished for Wheel of Fortune. That's why there's some things that are incomplete there in the scoring, and I believe that's pretty well known out there. So yeah, good call there. I did know that, didn't mention it. Let's see, Patrick says, oh, so he heard me talking about Maine. Oh, I've talked to Patrick before. He says, welcome back to Portland, Nate. Great episode last night. I have serious doubts about Iron Maiden as a pin. I don't think that band ever had the crossover success that Metallica or AC/DC did. It's possible because they seem to have a lot of traction with pinheads, but it seems like a bit of a reach. I agree. I don't know that Iron Maiden is big enough. It's music that never really... there were never really any radio hits by Iron Maiden, and you don't see any Iron Maiden really at karaoke very often, whereas Metallica and AC/DC had the mainstream or kind of had the soundtrack to the movie thing going on. Iron Maiden's a little more out in the corners of heavy metal rock and roll. Then he suggests something that I'm not so sure about. He says, if I were Stern, I'd go completely in a different direction. Stephen Colbert. You could have awesome custom callouts, and with an LCD, it would absolutely rock. Let his writing team loose on a pinball machine, and I think you get something at least as funny as Medieval Madness, plus he would promote the hell out of it because it would fit his character's ego-driven style. I like some of that. I think it would be funny. I think it'd be great to have real comedians writing call-outs and some of the playfield ideas. That would be cool. The theme, maybe if it was like Stephen Colbert's Real American Pinball, where he's, the over-the-top satire version, where he's just promoting it, kind of do an American theme based on that. I know that Stephen Colbert just won the Emmy for Best Show of that type. I don't know what they call it. Variety show of that type over The Daily Show for the first time in like 10 years or something like that. First time ever over The Daily Show. So I like the thought. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think the other problem with that is how that would play internationally, and I know that's a big thing Stern thinks about. He said, Patrick says, I hope you're at Coast City Comics right now playing some Doctor Who. Replay is at 495 million. Good luck. Yeah, I would not have gotten there. This probably comes too late, but stay away from there. Ripley's Believe It or Not, the Shrunken Head Magnet is dead, and that kills the game. Good call. Definitely looking forward to your upcoming trip report. Well, unfortunately, there's no trip report because I didn't get to play any pinball. So lame. But I will return to Maine soon enough, and I will get some pinball in up there for sure. So thank you very much for the email, Patrick. Friend of the show, Donald. Don says, he pointed out that somebody had asked me if Asbury Park was affected by the Seaside Heights fire, and I had said no pinballs were hurt, and that's actually not true because the Carousel Arcade was damaged, and I believe they lost all their games, and that's really bad because let's do a little quick Google of the Carousel Arcade. Yeah, here it is. Totally destroyed by the fire, all very heartbroken. It's bad, and that's after they had been heavily damaged by Sandy and had rebuilt from Sandy. So our collective pinball hearts go out to the folks at the Carousel Arcade. I appreciate Don pointing that out to us. That's no good. That's just a horrible fire that happened up there. It's just bad. He also pointed out the same thing about the bobblehead guys on Wheel of Fortune. So that was pointed out there again. Chad had some thoughts on Star Trek. He said, in one of the last episodes, you asked for opinions on the Star Trek pinball machine from Stern. He says, it seems to me that Stern continues to show that it has not evolved from being the Data East from the 90s. They continue to charge the same amount as a game from Jersey Jack with all the new innovations, while Stern's latest innovation, or should I say only innovation in the last 10 plus years, is tricolor LEDs, which Jersey Jack came out with first. And then so he kind of goes on to do some comparisons and really push for the fact that Stern needs to be doing some innovation and changing things up. He wishes them the best, hopes they keep making games, but he is extremely frustrated that they hire so many great designers and then tie their hands so that their games get lost in a lineup from the 90s and 2000s. Very fair thought, Chad. I don't totally disagree with that. I think that if you listen to Gary Stern talk, though, that's kind of their whole idea, is they want to keep building those same sort of, they call them retro games, and I guess they are retro to the 90s. It's hard for me to think about the 90s being so retro, but they are. I think that Jersey Jack is going to force their hand a little bit. I don't think they'll admit that, but I think you will see these changes make their way into Stern. The problem that I think folks on forums sometimes don't understand, and I see this in my industry a lot, product cycles and development cycles are much, much longer than the public realizes. So we see Stern releasing 3 games right now. Well, I guarantee you their next 3 games are already mapped out. There's already production happening. There's parts being sourced. There's whiteboards being done. There's big white, chalkboard type whiteboards up on walls with timelines written out. There's CAD drawings. So much of this stuff happens way in advance that for them to make a change, like a major change, like say, hey, we're going to start putting an LCD screen in the back box. That's probably for a company like Stern that's so, production driven and factory driven and assembly line driven. That's like a 2-year change, I would guess. That's not something they can say, oh man, look, people actually are buying Wizard of Oz. We need to, make Star Trek, which has already sort of been started on the design side. We need to make that an LCD game. I just don't think that can happen. We know they're testing out new boards, so they are working on it. We're an impatient people nowadays because we have all this information right at our fingertips now on the internet. But I can guarantee you Stern is hard at work on innovating designs. I think it'd be the best thing in the world for pinball as a whole if these guys force each other to do better and do more. we saw that before when there were multiple companies producing, and I hope we get to that again now. So I totally feel your frustration, and I know the fact that there is only one company releasing multiple games a year, because, I mean, literally, Jersey Jack has yet to release more than, one game, period. So we can't even really say they're doing a game a year. So really, it's still Stern and then everybody else as boutique builders, and that is frustrating. And we are a hobby so driven on the past, and we're looking for what's next. So he mentioned also, Charlie from Spooky Pinball has said that the technology is nowhere close to where it should be today. And that's true, but it's a hobby that almost died. So I think it sort of has to ramp back up again. But great email, Chad. I really appreciate emails that, were giving me some real hard thought. I'm going to cut the mailbag off right now. I have a bunch of other mail sitting here, but we had to wrap the show up here in a second. And in a second, I meant 10 or 15 seconds. The show's over. I gotta go. I gotta edit this thing, get this thing up, and go back to work in the morning. Who's going to Expo? Please get a hold of me if you're going to be at Expo. I would love somebody who could take some photographs for me and send me some updates and anything cool that they see so that I could report on it during Expo. Plan on doing at least one show while Expo's happening and then doing some wrap-up stuff. Would really appreciate it. You can get a hold of me at coast2coastpinball@gmail.com. We have a website, coast2coastpinball.com. My email is not coast2coastpinball.com. It's actually coast2coastpinball@gmail.com. I'm getting tired. I think I've looped myself over here a few times. We're on Facebook. Like us on Facebook. It's great to see those numbers have been shooting up lately. Facebook.com/Coast2Coast Pinball. And of course, Twitter. You can follow us there. I always post all the new shows there first. And when I'm out traveling and see cool stuff, I'll tend to drop some stuff onto the old Twitter. So we're at C2C Pinball. C, the number 2, the letter C, Pinball. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. This has been Coast to Coast Pinball, episode 27. We will talk to you again soon.
Prepare for the ultimate challenge. Ready, set, shoot! Early. Use the flipper! Oh, you can!
I know you're probably waiting for something funny to happen, or some joke to take place, or something. But I got nothing. I'm tired. I got Street Fighter gameplay sounds and noise. So just enjoy it. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Bang. Late. Yeah. Late. You lose. There. Haha.
Select your victory award.